Hello, everyone. Welcome to Talking Logistics, where we have conversations with thought leaders and newsmakers in the supply chain logistics industry. It's my great pleasure to welcome to today's program Jeff Oslander, who's CEO and managing partner at Dynamic Logistics. And today we're going to talk about key factors to consider when selecting a TMS partner for your 3PL business. Now, transportation management systems are used by two main types of companies. You've got shippers and you've got third-party logistics companies. But 3PLs have some unique requirements compared to shippers. So there's some key factors that really have to be considered when selecting a TMS solution and a partner. What are some of those key factors? Well, that's what we're going to kind of focus on in today's episode. And it's great to have Jeff on the program to kind of share his insights and advice, considering he went through this process not that long ago. So Jeff, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Adrian. I'm honored to be here and excited to partake.
Now, Jeff, you're a first-time guest on Talking Logistics. And like I always like to do before we dive into the program, I always like, to kind of understand a little bit about, how and why people got into this crazy industry that we're in to begin with. And so why don't we start there real brief? Tell us a little bit about your career path, how and why you got involved with kind of the logistics field and kind of what your role and responsibilities are there at Dynamic Logistics.
Absolutely. So I, right out of school, got an advertising degree, and thus became a freight broker because those two totally add up, right? Worked for American Backhaulers right out of college in downtown Chicago. Great company, great leadership. Obviously, those guys have gone on to wonderful things in the industry. Got out of it right about when the dot-com boom was starting in the early 2000s, late 90s. And then about 2009, got notified that, or learned more that technology was becoming more and more involved in the transportation side, or the transportation industry, which was definitely interesting to me because it's, we're talking about an industry that's 8 to 10% of the GDP that, in my opinion, prior to that time frame wasn't as technologically, there wasn't enough focus on technology being part of it. And so when it came into 2009, 2010, I started learning about TMS and kind of what it can do, and really finally giving that department what all the other departments had, which were automation and efficiency systems, whether it's ERP or Salesforce management or it was HR management. The transportation department always seemed to be left out. Well, now they weren't. Now there were these technologies that were out there that could really help them get better at what they do. So got into the TMS game about 2009 and 10. Had some successes with a lot of different customers and shippers and carriers and staffs that I worked with. And around 2016, 15, I got the opportunity to go out and really be part of a leadership team and an ownership team that was focused on TMS as the leading thing we were trying to do within our 3PL here at Dynamic Logistics. And so here we are. And it's been an awesome run. We're not done yet. In fact, we got a lot of work to do. But yeah, I mean, during that process, I've been lucky enough to try and retain some of this information I've learned to hopefully consistently improve my knowledge and where this industry is going, but obviously our staff as well. So that's how we're here today, and very excited about how things are going for us and where the industry is going as well.
Yeah, no, great points there. And I've been in the industry now for almost 20 years, so I've seen kind of the evolution of not only the TMS space, but obviously the third-party logistics space. And you're right. I mean, I think TMS was transportation departments, whether particularly in shippers, they were kind of at the bottom of the priority list when it came to IT investments. And for 3PLs, obviously you can say, okay, well, TMS, transportation was, for a lot of them, were kind of a key component of their operations. But the challenge that they had, which kind of brings me to my first question, is that when they looked around at some of the TMS solutions out there, this is going back 15, 20 years ago, a lot of those solutions were designed for shippers, and they said, hey, our operations are different than shipper operations. We need a lot of different things, whether it's on the buy side and sell side, whether it's the fact that we have to manage multiple shippers, so on and so forth. So that brings me to my first question, which, like I said, for a lot of 3PLs historically, when it came to a TMS, it was either a build or buy decision, right? For all those reasons I just talked about. Was that the case for you? I mean, what factors led you to, seek out a TMS partner instead of kind of building your own solution?
Well, I think For us, there were several factors. I mean, obviously, time to market was quick. If we found a good partner, we didn't have to build our own. I'd worked in that environment before where we had purchased other TMS solutions in past posts I'd been at. We have our own IT staff here. We have our own developers as one of our partner companies. But to me, there's a window right now, and that window's open. And, we were thinking about building our own, but then I met the guys over at our current provider, our current partner, and realized how far ahead of the game they were. I realized what their reputation was. You're talking about someone like Mitch Wesley. This is not someone to take lightly. This is a major contributor, if not the most major contributor to this TMS space over the last 20 years, 25 years. So that really excited me. We've got a partner here that we could go to market quickly with. Some of the things that make TMS in the marketplace, the differentiators, I guess, would be the ability to have, quick reaction time, strong integration hubs that are pliable, they're quick, you can integrate them with almost anything. And all those things I heard. And then on top of that, like I said, the reaction time, I noticed when I first started working with the current provider that I was getting answers same day. In fact, I was getting answers same hour. And it just made it an easy decision for us. Okay, let's not build this. Let's go out and let's just partner with someone that we know we can go to the next level with. And honestly, to be alive with them for just a handful of years now, but have a client base and a business that's tripled in revenue 3 years in a row, that's proven the point to be a good decision, luckily for us. So, but yeah, that was really the decision we made. And I also think that the space is, being a 3PL, is a lot of times, more often than not, the potential customer wants to know who you bring into the dance, for lack of a better term. And for us, it's good to say that we're bringing, our partner to the dance, because okay, those guys are well known, they've got a good reputation, seem to be growing. Gartner thinks well of them. So I also kind of knew that too. It's okay, a lot of times we would get questions from our prospective customers, and they would say, "Did you build your own?" And they actually were hoping that we didn't. They were hoping that we were bringing a tier 1 TMS to the table that we obviously become disciples of and experts at running and executing with that partner. So more often than not, it's actually a benefit that we didn't build our own. So I guess if I over-answered the question, but
no, I think you provide some great.
About a 2-month evaluation, and we figured it out. So.
Yeah, no, it's great. I think it sounded like, time to market was a key, component in the decision factor. Because you had things that, you want to get this business up and running, you wanted to start delivering on what you wanted to accomplish, with regards to the business and with regards to your customers. And then I think, the other, piece is that, ultimately, I think, you have to ask yourself, what business are we in, right? So are we in the software TMS development business, or are we in a delivering, services and value and technology, to customers? And I think, every time I ask that question, there are, several 3PLs out there that have developed their own solutions, and they continue to invest in that area. And they've got, a lot of good reasons why they do that. So I think it's one of those things that for each business, they have to decide whether, what it is that they're trying to accomplish and how are they looking to go to market. And, and I think the proof is in the pudding. It sounds like your business has been growing and been successful now for the past few years. And like you said, it was, it's been the right decision. So I'm going to touch base a little bit on some of those things that you said, and kind of maybe dive into, some areas. So let's focus first on kind of the type of TMS solution that you were looking for. What were some of the, key attributes or functionality or capabilities that were important to you?
Well, obviously you want to have a tier 1 feature list that aligns with all the other tier 1 providers that have been around for 10, 15, 20 years. And the box was checked off on all of those for the most part. The number one thing that really drove us to the direction that we went was the integration. This is the underrated, often not talked about part of TMS that shippers need to be wary of. They absolutely have got to be wary of. We got a tier 1 TMS. Great. Awesome. Good decision. Everyone's excited within the shipper company. A year later, you're still not live. What's the number one thing that gets in the way of that? It's the integration. And so for us, after we did some testing, did some evaluation, the integration hub of our partner is getting people live in less than 2 months. And it's funny, we just had a customer last week who is considering dumping their TMS they decided on in May of 2017. It still is not live. It's with a well-known TMS provider out there, good company. But it takes resources to get these things live. And I think the fact that the hub is so pliable with where we're at today, that we've integrated with almost every system you can think of that's kind of well-known out there. But we've also integrated with some custom-built ERP systems and warehouse management systems that our customers have. Heck, we just did an integration 3 months ago with PDF. I mean, who would have thought you'd ever do that? So that was the number one criteria from a feature standpoint. Optimization, fantastic. Wonderful load planning functionality, obviously. The look and feel, the kind of the sizzle on the steak of how you actually look and feel inside the TMS was very appealing to our customer base. And then the ability to, via APIs and other ways, to integrate with the TMS with things that we want to do with some of our own custom-built technologies around reporting, around kind of really attractive KPI functionality for the shipper, especially we use a lot of Microsoft BI over here. The fact that could all be integrated so well with the system so easily brought the value to the customer. Because at the end of the day, a lot of these customers, they're getting a TMS as an execution system, which you have to have a good integration to realize the benefit, which I already went over that. And then all the features and functions of executing your freight, but why are we not telling the story in the back end? And to me, the ability to quickly be able to extract data or work within the reporting system within the TMS and then have additional kind of attractive reporting that your COO is going to want, or your director of finance or operations is going to want. That was also a key thing. It's the TMS that we have right now, the TMSs that, and I've dealt with 4 of them now, they all have very similar features and functions. Question is, how easy are they to work with? And that was, from a feature standpoint, just the ability for data to come in and out of this TMS and be able to set that up so quickly was a big driving point for us. And it's been a smashing success. Our average implementation time is about 9 weeks. Our competition's averaging 9 months. So that's a huge difference. And I think a lot of times, and we don't win every opportunity. That would be unrealistic, but we get a lot of callbacks saying, "Hey, it's not working out. Can you really hit that 9 weeks you talked about?" We're like, we can try, but yeah, we should give or take be right around that time frame. So that was a huge part of our decision, was knowing that we can get people live so they can truly realize the benefit as quickly as possible. And that was obviously the number one feature.
That's a great point, because I think, when you look at RFPs, and I get to see a number of RFPs, from shippers that are, asking me for my opinion or thoughts on what questions to ask and all that. Inevitably they're all feature function heavy, right? Can it do, this type of load consolidation? Can it do, these types of optimization? Does it have, routing guide, XYZ capability, so on and so forth, right? So just a list of features and functions. And they're usually light on, if anything, or maybe they didn't even have any questions related to some of the things that you're talking about. And you're right. I mean, a TMS does not exist in a vacuum. Ultimately, you have to integrate it with other systems like order management systems, ERP, warehouse management systems. Obviously, you have to integrate it with carriers in order to tender and receive status messages and so forth. You have to integrate them with customer systems, right, that may want to extract data. So that's an area that I think, to your point, often gets overlooked, and it's critically important to not only the implementation and expediting that implementation, but also to the long-term success of getting value from the solution. The other piece, and I wonder if it played a role here, is one of the things I'm beginning to see more and more, not only 3PLs, but even shippers talk this way, is kind of the flexibility of the solution, right? Because the reality is, as we all know, is that today's transportation operating environment is going to be different, 6 months from now, a year from now, right? Because this is such a dynamic industry. A new capability is going to need to be added, so on and so forth. Was the flexibility, the ability to add more capabilities, or to perhaps configure the solution in different ways? Was that something that also played a role in the decision? I mean, is that something that, as part of your evaluation process, you looked at?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, at the end of the day, from the customer view, it's reaction time, right? And you have to have two things for that. First of all, you have to have a flexible tool. I think we realized early on, after doing some demos and doing some kind of fake clients that we'd run through there to kind of we were trying to break the system, right? We realized very quickly that, within the same day, if not within the same hour, we could change features and functions relatively easily within the system to give the client the experience they really need to do their job. I mean, the thing about TMS is it can actually be overwhelming too. So to your point, you've got thousands of buttons that can be turned on. Every button you turn on adds a new dynamic to what you're trying to do every day. Well, let's break it down. So you've got the COO, you get the CFO, you get the VP of finance, whoever, customer service. They're macro, right? But what about the guys on the ground level that are executing the freight that work with the shipper? He or she doesn't want to see 75 different things. They want to see the 10 to 15 things to help them do their job. So for us, the ability, and by the way, all the shippers are different. We've got food shippers, construction shippers, telecom shippers, you name it. They all have different ways they run their business. So we have to configure the environment to align with what works for them and their business and how they execute things. So right off the bat, we realized, okay, it's going to be easy to give Joe, the food guy, the view he wants versus Sally, the construction gal, the view that she wants, so they can execute their day on a consistent basis. So that's current feature flexibility. The other big thing, and this is just as important, if not more important, was that when we wanted to make additions to the software that were customer specific, that were maybe scalable features that we could use with other customers, the partner showed us during the few-month courtship there that they reacted relatively quickly. And I could tell it wasn't just to get us to sign up. It was definitely, this is how it's going to be moving forward. So we actually set aside a budget every single month specifically for ongoing customizations that we're willing to pay our partner to improve the environment for all of our customers. And their reaction time and their ability to get the job done for what we're trying to scope out and get added to the software. Once again, we're talking, first of all, reaction time is daily. Implementation time is within minimal weeks. So once again, I've been at other places where you take a ticket and it's March 1st, and then they give you a call July 1st, hey, we're ready for your ticket. Well, you just lost 4 months of shipping for your customer. That's not 2018. It's just not. So the feature functionality that already existed, and then I think the reaction time to have the ability to add to the software and add quickly and right, of course, has been, A, it was evaluated, and B, it's actually shown to be an asset for us that we have flexibility.
No, great points. And I think that this key piece around flexibility and configurability, I think, is one of the differentiators of what's important, or more important for a 3PL, let's say, than for a shipper, because for a shipper, yes, they may have to configure the solution for the different roles that they have within their four walls, right? A view or capabilities they want to provide to kind of the customer service or the CEO, CFO, and so forth. And then the capabilities that they want to provide their transportation planners, their dispatch people, their other folks in the front line. But as a 3PL, you have to do that across multiple different customers in multiple different industries that have different, so the configuration and challenge there is much more complex and broader than it is for a shipper. And then the other piece is I think, which kind of leads me to my next question. I mean, you touched a little bit upon the looking for a partner that can help you as your needs change, to be able to kind of grow with you and respond to your changing needs. So kind of my next question was going to be selecting a software solution is kind of one thing, but selecting a partner, which is something I wrote about recently on Talking Logistics, how I see that's becoming much more common for shippers and 3PLs to not think in terms of, I'm going to select a vendor, but I'm going to select a partner, which kind of, if we approach it from a partnership standpoint, you kind of think things a little bit differently. So Can you share with us a little bit about the evaluation process and and what ultimately led you to select? I mean, you ultimately ended up selecting 3G TMS as your partner. So talk a little bit about, I think you already kind of alluded to some of those key points, but what were kind of how did the evaluation go? What were the things that ultimately tipped the scales in 3G TMS's favor?
Right. So it's kind of it's almost like a baton handoff. The way I look at this, um, you've got the handoff from our TMS provider to us, and then us to our customer, right? So the evaluation process was really, per some of the points I mentioned earlier. I've been at other places. A lot of the names people know in the space are tier one TMSs, and they're all wonderful companies. But knowing that if I made a phone call to Mitch Wesley, the CEO of 3G, or the senior vice president of customer service, I got phone calls back the same day. And I noticed that early on, and my gut instinct was, okay, this feels different than the other, over the last 10 years, the other TMSs I've involved with, which are all strong systems. So I kind of liked, I alluded to that we were this underdog 3PL, this that nobody knew of, and trying to build ourselves up. And I got the feeling that they kind of were too. But then they had this 20-year, 25-year history behind their leadership team that knew how to do this stuff. So I just got a sense immediately that they were in the foxhole with me. So that's good for me. That's good for our company. But that allows us to allow our customers to feel like that we're in the foxhole with them as well. And also the ability for 3G to not be afraid to talk to our customers. Like we're very transparent. We don't try and hide everything behind a curtain. We don't have a problem if our customers talk directly to 3G or with us in 3G. And so the path to victory to get things done for our customers, like I said earlier, was so much faster. It was collaborative, it was transparent, and it wasn't just us being the middleman messenger. Oftentimes it's us combining with 3G and our customer to work together collaboratively to get things done quickly. So that partnership was there right off the bat. The other thing I would add to it is that the big mistake a lot of shippers make is they don't realize the resources they need to put into this. They'll get a TMS. We hear it all the time. We got a TMS 5 years ago, 3 years ago, 1 year ago, and it just kind of does this. And we're like, well, you have these other 1,000 features you could tap into, much less just tap into 10 of them. And so I think the fact that right off the bat, 3G was consistently holding webinars, updates, upgrades, all this stuff, and keeping us involved, putting on members of our team on their user board, which is a huge thing for us. That means a lot. So we've got our finger on the pulse of what's coming down the chute, which ultimately will help our customers. That all combined into an environment which ultimately benefits our customers, which is what we're all shooting for here. And that partnership, strangely, and I think it's a good thing, it's actually gotten better. You'd think as 3G has expanded and got so much bigger than they were just 3 or 4 years ago. But I feel like I think they've done a good job of adding good resources in the leadership and mid-level teams, that the service of anything has actually gotten better as we've grown with them. And now we're, running about 9 digits through their system. So that underdog feeling that they were the up-and-comer, like we wanted to be up-and-comer, the experience behind it, and then just the attention we got. It was almost like, is this too good to be true? But then it just kept going and going and going. So hopefully I answered that question. But I've been with so many players, and this is different. It's a whole different beast, how it's set up.
It's interesting because, one of the discussions that's taking place in the industry right now from a supply chain standpoint is how companies are starting to compete on customer experience, right? So in an area where many products, there's a lot of, parity in features and functions or even price, right? And you can talk about that in the retail space or the manufacturing space. But in some ways you can, it seems like based on your comments that's another factor here, even in the enterprise software space, that, many great solutions out there. A lot of them can check all the feature function, but check marks next to all the key feature functions. And then, where are you going to compete on, right? And it sounds like customer experience here has been one of the key differentiators, for you in terms of having that responsiveness, good communication, not only with you, but with your customers, and that collaborative, feeling with all of them, between all the parties involved. No, so how long have you been working with 3G TMS, and can you share a little bit about some of the benefits achieved to dates, and then what's kind of down the road? I mean, what are some of the new capabilities or new things that you're looking to do, kind of heading into 2019 here?
So we've been with them for 3 years now. It's been wonderful the whole time. They continue to come out with new features and functions. I would say one of the big features. So yes, we are a 3PL that leads with TMS, and that's kind of our 80% of our revenue. Runs through that what we're talking about today. But we still have a brokerage division over here that brokers freight all day. Some of our customers that are less non-exclusive. And so what we're really excited about is we've seen a lot of the demos and a lot of the releases for the new brokerage software or brokerage feature function of 3G that's coming out, which is great for us because ultimately to have everything on one system from an efficiency standpoint, especially on the back office and finance side, is very important to us, but also on the ability to build out our carrier databases and the ability to understand when we do get customers, where can we instantly go to find capacity for those customers on the TMS side and then the brokerage side as well. So we're very excited about that release, which is coming out very soon. I've been in other places where you had 2 or 3 different systems you're running. It can be a headache. I think ultimately that is going to be a big function piece as well. The ability to do more pooling, which is a functionality that has come out over the last 6 months with 3G, where you can actually figure out for your especially a lot of your inbound LTL shippers, how do we do some pooling to turn those into full truckloads. Those are features and functions that not all the competition in the tier 1 space has. So those are also features and functions that we're excited about. And just overall, it just seems like every time we ask for something, not every time, I'd say probably 3 out of 4 times, like, oh yeah, that's actually in the next release. So they're thinking ahead of the game consistently as to what some of the gaps are in the industry that, because we're hearing, and we talk to our customers and potential customers every single day, hey, what if it did this? What if it did that? It's almost like 3G's got their finger on that pulse as well, because whenever we ask about it, oh yeah, that's going to be Q1 release, or that's going to be Q4 release. By the way, would you like to see a demo on it? Would you like to just to send you a PowerPoint as to what the functionality is going to look like? So those are a few specific ones early on as my answer, but overall, from a macro level, they're just nonstop developing stuff to make this a better system. And I would imagine they're going as fast as anyone else is right now.
That whole area of you made a point before, the reality of what you expect from a technology provider in 2018 versus, let's say, back in the year 2000, right? And I think that's an area that I think a lot of companies are looking for in their technology partners is, agile development or rapid development, right? The ability to continuously be introducing new capabilities, new functionalities in weeks, right? Versus measuring it, okay, 6 months from now, a year from now, being able to kind of continuously add new capabilities and functionality there. So Jeff, we're running short on time here. So just as a way to kind of wrap up, I mean, in light of everything that we've kind of talked about so far, I mean, what advice would you give to other companies that are in the market for TMS? Anything that you would do differently in retrospect?
I think ultimately, if I'm going to give a handful of advice points, first of all, make sure that you can integrate quickly and effectively, obviously. It's important because we as a company manage a number that runs through that system. It's a number that's big and it's growing. But we're not adding a ton of headcount over here. We're letting the system actually work for us as well, not just our customers, not just working with 3G. So that's allowed us to scale our business in a way that is very healthy for our bottom line. Number 2, I would say, give me your track record of the last 6 integrations you've done. What was the time frame on those? And I want to talk to a few of those customers as to what that experience was like. Because ultimately, you can cancel out very quickly the ones that took forever or took too long. And I think, in my opinion, if you can't get up and running and integrated in less than 3 or 4 months, then what are you doing? I mean, you're basically losing a year that you could have taken advantage of the system. Another point, obviously, responsiveness, care. I mean, that responsiveness shows care. And these are basic human elements we're talking about: efficiency, care, attention, completion to get the job done. So I would ask about reaction time. How quickly can I get someone on the phone? What's the process for support versus service versus C-level input from the provider? Try and figure that out as well. And then I would also just talk about kind of what you mentioned earlier. We both talked about is how can I get systems to talk to this system? How open is the system so that I can make sure my carriers are automated? LTL. Why everyone should be EDI. I mean that takes everything out of the game. What other systems and technologies are you adding to this? I know one big one that 3G did recently was LoadTap, which is a wonderful tracking tool. Locks into the driver's cell phone or ELD. Those types of things that are making life more efficient. How easy is it to add those things or subtract those things? Add different features of functionality that aren't native to the actual TMS provider that can help you out. So I would say the integration time, the reaction time, the reactivity, and the ability to let other systems that aren't just ERPs talk to this system in and out to make everything more efficient for you as a provider, as well as for your shipper customers, or if you're a shipper, just for you.
Well, great words of advice there, and great food for thought. Jeff, like I always say at the end of all our episodes, we always just manage to scratch the surface on these topics. Right. I'm sure we could probably spend another hour talking through this and provide other examples. But I think you provided some great insight and some great advice there. So again, thank you for making the time to be with us today.
Appreciate it, Adrian. And once again, we feel honored that you brought us on. Thank you so much.
Great. I want to thank those of you that joined us. If you're watching this episode on demand, either at the 3G TMS website or on Talking Logistics, and you've got a question or a comment for Jeff, feel free to post it there. I'm sure he'll be more than happy to respond via that medium. Again, thank you for joining us, and look forward to seeing you in a future episode of Talking Logistics. Have a great day.